Oh, hey. Let's go. Hello, everyone. This is Antoine Hunter, Purple Fire Crow. I am so excited to be here with you. Today, September 21, 2021. Man, a lot has happened, especially here in California. You know, schools have started opening back up. Kids are going back to school. Everything's new. Summer's over, and the fall is creeping around the corner. You know, some people going back to work. You know, some people are doing, it's still a little iffy. Some people are going back to school in person. Some are doing virtual. So it's, everything's shifting from where we were. It's a new world again. I'd like to offer you some advice. If you're feeling overwhelmed, with everything new happening, and if you feel overwhelmed, just remember to breathe. And it's okay to breathe. It's all right. Let's try it with me. In. Exhale. In. Out. Yeah. It's okay to breathe. Sometimes we need to pause for a moment to reconnecting with ourselves. Today we have a special guest, but before we invite our special guest, I would like for our interpreters to come on. How are y'all doing? It's so wonderful to meet you two interpreters. This is Amber. This is my sign name. All right. And this is Jay. Hello. I want to say thank you for your services. Bye. You see those they are beautiful people, right? It's not hard to find a BIPOC team. So I'm very grateful for our interpreters this evening. Now, let's talk about our guest today. Who, you might ask? Let's engage in her beautiful bio. So our guest, Sarah Young Bear Brown, indigenous name tti-ka-mi-ge-a, tti-ka-mi-ge-a, is a member of the Sac&Fox Tribe of the Mississippi in Iowa. The Meskwaki Nation. She resides in Council Bluffs, Iowa. She is a mother of 2 young children, beautiful, strong children. She went to Iowa School for the Deaf and attended the United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck, North Dakota. It's a beautiful place if you haven't visited. Now, she walks in two different worlds as a Meskwaki and a deaf woman. And that's something we will talk quite a bit more about. So please welcome Young Bear.
Hello, hello. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
How are you? That's my first question. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm doing really good. I've been super busy recently. I just completed a move to a new town from where I'd actually grown up from my hometown. So just moved here. So got to get used to this new life in a new big city. And finding things a little bit hard, but doing it.
Where did you grow up and where did you move to?
Tama. I grew up in Tama, Iowa.
Okay.
That's where all of my family live. My tribe settlement is there, and everything I know is there. I grew up there my whole life, and just recently moved to Council Bluffs, Iowa. It's about a 3-hour drive southwest in the Iowa area. Um, I have a child who is deaf and goes to ISD as well. Here in the Council Bluffs area, we use this name sign CB. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that she got a good education. Also have a hearing son who attends regular public school. It's just 2 blocks away from our home, so that couldn't be more perfect.
Wow. That move, moving away from 3 hours. Did you grow up in a small town or a big town?
Oh, well, it's a big difference. I can tell you that from what I'm used to. We're really, really used to a very small community where everyone knows everyone. And here, there's so many people that are really strangers to us. It's just something just we're starting to notice that we don't know that person. We don't know that person. It's very different. So I'm very much a country girl, um, not much of a city girl, and we just got into a new apartment. So we're excited to see what happens. I'm sure it'll be okay.
Now, I mean, you never know. You might have to go back. We're home runs. We
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and something new. The air is different.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I do feel something different about city air. um, I can still see the stars from my new home. Um, at home, in my new place, I live up a hill. So, or in my former home, excuse me, I lived up a hill. So there are less stars to see here. Being in the big city, obviously, you've got to compete with the city lights. So you got to drive out of town, maybe an hour to get the best view of the lights, but that's fine.
You know, Reading your bio, you have two different worlds. You're living in the Meskwaki,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
as well as live in the spirit of a deaf woman. But I would like to go back in time a little bit. You were born Sarah,
Young bear.
and then you got
Yep, that's right.
your formal name of young bear. Do you mind
Yep.
explaining that a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, it's Arapaho is the bear portion that comes from that part of the family, the young bear. That's from my mother's side of the family, and the brown is actually from my father's side. So typically, what we do is we hyphenate. We take our mother and our father's names. So I have grown up with this name sign, which is the fist to the left chest, and then the B hand shape along the right chin, and that is from the Algonquin. Our language is from that. We are indigenous peoples, and we are recognized. My name sign is the young bear. Um, so that hand shape that I'm using, that means young, and then the bear portion comes in, and that's where the indigenous part is shown clearly with that sign. So those are indigenous signs that I use to identify myself as well.
So you say you're heavily involved with the Meskwaki tribe. Is that in Iowa?
Well, yes, the Meskwaki people. What does that name mean? It means red earth people. Yeah, that's what it literally, that's what it means.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
they are from here in the state of Iowa. they're the only tribal people who own their land. It is not a reservation that we live on. Most of the country, I believe there are 300 reservations all over Turtle Island, which is what we call the United States. But what we call our property is a settlement, because we actually purchased that land from the government there in the state of Iowa many years ago. And so that's where my people are. That's where we've rooted ourselves. And it's a different perspective than folks that grow up on reservations have. It's a totally different experience. My name is a Meskwaki name from the language itself. The tti-ka-mi-ge-a actually has meaning, and that is the tti-ka-mi-ge-a. That means young girl standing by the river. And that has to do with the fish clan, which is where I'm a member of. This is the sign for clan. Yep, so 2 C hand shapes.
Okay.
Now, the Meskwaki tribe, right, is where I'm a part of, but there are different clans that are composed within the tribe itself. So we have several clans that we are members of. We have bear, fish, fox, wolf, swan, eagle, who else? And thunder.
And each of them have their own individual meetings, yeah?
That is correct. Yes, each is their own separate clan. And we have 3 in our family. We've got the fish, the bear, and then the fox as well.
So all of the clans have different responsibilities, different representations.
Well, for example, the fish clan, that's a water people, obviously, the fish clan. And so that would mean, like, just for an example, they maybe hold fish as sacred, so they wouldn't eat fish. They wouldn't cause harm to their brothers and sister fish, as it were.
Wow. What's a perspective for an eagle clan?
Well, for the eagle clan, they're more about leadership. Fox clan is more like a military soldier type warrior. Another clan would be more like a chief royalty type of clan. So it's more about the traditional ways and being able to look back at your ancestors and using their knowledge and be able to apply that as you go forward in your own life.
So let me clarify. So there are tribes. So in each tribe there are clans.
Yes. Actually, a tribe has, there's 574 tribes all over the United States. Let me put that out there. Some tribes do have clans within them, and some do not. Some have lost their languages, and some are trying to relearn their languages. So we're in different states and different conditions all over the country.
Wow, I've learned so much in a short period of time.
Oh, I'm happy to educate. It's really important.
Yes. So that's a segue into a different question. Is that living as a deaf woman? Did you grow up learning ASL?
I did, yes.
And did you know Indigenous Sign as well?
Yes, I did, actually. Yes. Obviously, I'm still learning Indigenous Sign Language. For example, working as a deaf interpreter, as a DI, sometimes they'll call on me to do some work in the Indigenous community. For example, I've done some film work, and they wanted me to discuss the fight over the land and the water protection and the signs that go with that, along with the indigenous concepts that also need to be added. These are important. So you've got let me see, you've got a blood sign. It looks like this. There are specific signs for each of each of these words. So
wait, a sign. Wait a minute. So we have the sign for white is what you just did.
Sorry. I still,
Right.
I still have to figure out why that sign means what it means and how it changed from white to black. But that was our sign for white. So it's just very interesting how it's changed. I'd really like to know how that happened. I'm quite fascinated.
Yeah, so this is the sign in ASL. This is a sign for black, black either black the color or black the person.
Right? I
Yeah,
know.
and
It's
then
so weird.
here's the sign, and then now that's interesting for the sign of now it's white, and then you have this sign that is indigenous sign of blood versus how it's done in ASL.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And this was a sign for woman. Is
It's
that
because it's associated to the hair.
yeah, yeah. It just depends on each tribe signed languages that they might have used. We are part of the Plains Indians, and basically they have quite a bit of regional sign language and vocabulary that they use. There are the Oneida people, Blackfeet. I mean, there are just some examples, but each have their own signed languages. They're not a universal language. A lot of people say that they wish they had a universal language, but there are so many different dialects. And like I mentioned, 574 tribes throughout Turtle Island. It's impossible for us to have a single language. So, yes, there are many signed languages. And most, most are,
My family background is black, African, Cherokee, Blackfoot. I don't know any of the my native side sign language, and so it's I would love to learn more and incorporate that. I feel a little lost. Did you feel as if when you were growing up, you already knew that you were in a tribe, you are a part of the tribe?
well,
And is it something you kind of adopted later in life?
yeah. I mean, when my family first learned I was deaf, I was 8 months old. I was an 8 month old baby. And my family's all hearing, and my mom noticed. And so she went ahead and started taking the sign language class. She spoke with the local educators, to the education DOE, I believe, to figure out what the best approach would be. And so she went ahead and called the local college to come by and send somebody to teach us sign language. And so I've been learning sign language since I was a baby. So signs for milk and eat and food, those are things my mom taught me. So I've been signing since infancy. But depending on the local educators for that support. And she did put me into the local elementary school. I would dance in powwows and regalia. I would wear a jingle dress with
Oh,
feathers. I was super cute. I was a little tiny thing, but they call that medicine when you are. It's like healing medicine to wear the regalia and dance in ceremony.
Th- so this sign,
Oh, and as yes, this was the sign for powwow.
okay.
That's the gathering of people. Powwow. And so my mom would bring me to powwow, and she would always put me in the dances, and I didn't care. I'd just go ahead and dance. I'd just follow my sister, just follow along and do the same steps that she was doing, and was doing that until about age 4 when she put me in school. Um, they saw that I was in a special needs class in the local elementary, and my mom was not satisfied with that. And so she started making some contacts and found that there was a deaf school there in Iowa, right? So we went for a visit. Well, she went for a visit, I should say. And she could see that all of the deaf kids were there signing away to each other, and they had that language. And it was a 3 hour distance, obviously, from where I grew up to ISD. And I was only 5 years old at the time. Um, it, it was really scary to be away from my family and everything I knew, to be put into a school with a totally different environment with all white kids. I mean, you got to know Iowa is 80% Caucasian. And so, ISD was majority white folks, and the BIPOC population there weren't very many of them, whether they be student or staff. And I saw a few examples of people who look like me, so I was afraid. I did, see that there were deaf people like me, and so I tried to, follow along. But I was very shy, and I was a really little girl. As I grew, I got used to it. I grew to love my school, and I know that they loved me. I mean, through all of the years, I've always been able to hold on to my indigenous identity and be proud of who I am, and been able to
Yeah.
wear my regalia and bring my fancy dresses, and show everyone at my school. I mean, I was 6, 7 years old, proud of who I was there in my school, and they were appropriately in awe of me and how wonderful I looked. So I was very proud of who I was since that day. So it was a fabulous experience. Fabulous. It's a great day.
Yeah, you didn't get bullied, for being an indigenous woman. You were yourself.
Oh, well, I did. I did get a little bit of experience of that racism. There was a little 8-year-old little boy, or I was 8, sorry. There was a little boy that approached me, and he said that he hated Indians and he hated me. And then, he would use sticks to try to poke at me. And I didn't know who this kid was. And I was like, why do you even hate me? I don't understand. And then for him to be poking at me, it made me mad. So I took the stick from him and I hit him back with it. I mean, obviously I shouldn't have, but I kicked his ass. I mean, when I remember it now, it's funny, but
Yeah, you had to defend yourself. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely makes me think though. I think about that, and I'm a different person now, obviously. I'm more accepting of others, and I'm just moving forward in my life. But racism is a definite issue that I've experienced myself, and at a young age.
So you realize, yeah, at 8, that there was a difference because you had a boy who, used this offensive tool. There was hate at 8 years old in the school.
Yeah, it was at the park, and
Oh,
actually it wasn't really at the school. I was over there with a couple of friends at the park, and it was some hearing kid that had never seen me before. I didn't know who he was. He just came up and said, "Oh, I don't like Indians." And I'm 8 years old, so yeah, but I'd thought about that since then. I'll never forget that day, just that brief encounter definitely impacted me though.
yeah, because you have the intersection of being an indigenous person as well as being a deaf person. So growing up, you continue to be proud of who you are. You continue to be proud of and continue to learn your culture as a deaf person and indigenous person. Now that journey. So I want to clarify. So, did you feel supported while you were in school as a deaf person, as an indigenous deaf person? How was that experience at the deaf school?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I remember growing up, as a little girl. I think, gosh, maybe kindergarten or first grade, one of them, maybe kindergarten. But I remember that they had pans, and there was Thanksgiving, and there were, the Mayflower. There was the whole thing. That was the play that we did, and I'm
Oh,
Native American, so they dressed me up as a fake Indian, right? So they put the feather and the headband on me, and they had the white kid come over and shake my hand. And as I had no idea, honestly, I didn't know what the true history was at that point. Um, but as I got nearer to graduation, I was still really kind of clueless about my own indigenous history. And I feel like, it was almost a brainwashing to grow up with that type of history being presented as the truth. And finally, as I got older, my mom's like, "Here, read this book." So I said, "Oh, okay, I'll read this book. Sure." So I read the book, and it made me it grossed me out. It flipped my whole perspective. It made me feel a lot of angry feelings and hurt. I didn't understand, how I couldn't know about this, why nobody told me that this was my actual history. Why didn't they tell me the truth? They swept everything under the rug and then kind of kept the historical happenings a secret, and it just kind of made me angry. I mean, I had to admit it. I was like, "Oh, this is terrible. I can't believe this happened, really?" And my mom was just sitting there, "Yep, that's what you need to know." And I said, "Well, how come nobody educated me? Holy crap." So it was something that I had to take to heart, and I had to figure out what was my next step going to be based on that new knowledge. And so I started doing vlogs so that I could support, um, my own people, and explain why Abraham Lincoln wasn't such a great guy, and all the things that people are not aware of, what really happened when the Mayflower landed and what have you. Trying to share this information. Do you know what really happened, everyone? This is what really happened. So, as an Indigenous history, coming forward, it's really important that we share this information. The book I thought was really good was, it's called 1492.
Oh yeah, 1492. Okay,
Yep,
1492.
1492. And it was an expansion of our history. And I looked at the map. Well, there's some maps that are included. I looked at the map prior to 1492, and then
Correct.
it showed a comparison from America a long time ago. The whole of the Northern Hemisphere is red to indicate the indigenous peoples that lived on Turtle Island. But when you look at the other map in comparison, you see there's just little pinpoints of red on the map, where you can see that all of those people no longer, they don't exist anymore. They're just little bits, little pin-sized bits of groups of people. I mean, when you think about how small our community has become, it's just, they have whitewashed history, the genocide of our indigenous peoples that continued from 1492 and onward. I mean, we're talking, I think, was it 90% of our population was killed. So we're talking about maybe 2 million indigenous people live on Turtle Island at this moment, which is a huge downsize from the huge numbers of people that we started with, comparatively speaking.
So you'd mentioned that this book kind of just brought a whole new world. It flipped your world upside down. What was that book called?
Well, the teacher didn't. What was it? Lies teachers tell in school. I think that's what it was called. Something like that. It was crazy, but my mom gave it to me. I think it was teachers tell you in school. Something like that. Anyway.
Huh. You had mentioned, part of the history with the people becoming sick.
Oh yeah.
With some of that sick
Pox.
Yeah. Okay.
Smallpox. We had from the blankets that were given to us by the American soldier or the United States soldiers. They were starved. People were made to suffer in all kinds of ways.
So, yeah. So for clarification, is when the Europeans came over, colonized the land, they also brought with them various viruses and bacteria that was passed on, and that they contracted, and it just depleted the people.
Yeah.
And so the land wasn't making us sick. It was
they brought blankets,
materials. Yeah.
I mean, they put us in encampments and in prisons, and they forced us into those camps, and they gave us those blankets in those camps, and they knew that those blankets would cause us to get smallpox.
And it ruined the land as well.
Yeah.
They killed our trees, really toxified our waters. Some people are completely oblivious about do you mind explaining a little bit about the ply?
Yeah, sure. Um, there was a medicine man many years ago. This was his sign name. Um, he was looking into the future. He had kind of some future predictions, of vision, and he saw a black snake that was destroying the land and covering the land. And he thought for a great time about what that black snake could mean. And many years later, until now, um, I think it was 2014, maybe 2013, we started to realize that Standing Rock, this is the name sign for Standing Rock. It's their name sign because their people stopped the black snake.
Oh.
My left hand is the people and my right hand is the snake, representing the oil companies. So people started to understand that there was a correlation between that medicine man's vision and what was happening in our current times. And so that's where that snake comes from.
Oh,
That's
so okay, so
black
the black snake represents oil.
because it represents the oil, exactly, the oil pipeline.
Mm.
Yeah. So once we understood that that's what that elder had been talking about is the oil pipelines, then we decided we needed to fight. And it was because the oil companies, they didn't care about the impact that they were having on the indigenous peoples that lived in the lands that they're busy trying to build these pipelines on. They're just busy trying to acquire land so they can build more pipeline and just disregarding everything and everyone in their path. And so they've been doing that for so long that people had enough. The water was endangered. And imagine if those pipelines break, trying to clean up that water could take 10, 20, 30 years to clean it up so that people could consume it again. And we didn't want that to happen. We needed to protect our resource, our precious water. And so oil companies thinking, being all big heads, thinking that they can just do whatever and take over and then just establish their oil pipeline, needed to stop. We actually, we looked at it was supposed to go through Wyoming and North Dakota as well. In Wyoming, let me think, where was it? The Northeast? Yeah, Northeast Wyoming, right? When you look at the land, it's so ugly because you can see only black that covers the land. It should be green. There should be rock. But instead, what you've got is the leftover crap that the oil company left. They didn't bother trying to clean up their mess. They didn't try to fix the land and bring it back to a healthy place. They just left their huge mess.
So they come, use the resources, and leave the trash.
Exactly. And there were many oil spills from those pipelines, and they did not care. Nobody gave a shit about the land. All they care about is money. As long as they could line their pockets fat with the green, they didn't care about what they were doing to the land. They just, and to use that money, as a matter of fact, to buy more land to establish more pipeline. So they're looking for all the good land to do their work on, and we didn't want to allow that to continue. That's the whole point of water protecting. You can't drink black water, right? Who wants to drink oil-covered, whatever, mixed up water? And to have that oil all throughout your body, nobody wanted that.
We can't drink oil. Come on. Come on.
Right? And that's why the people had to fight. So you can't just sit on the sidelines anymore and be all nice and politically correct. Oh, please stop using the oil. Oh, please don't do that anymore. You got to get aggressive. You have to fight. You have to defend what is precious. We had to protect our land and protect our earth and protect our water. This is our future. This is our future's future. We have to be smart now. And we have to encourage the healing of our earth. We have to wake up. To quote a show, we got to wake up. And we need help.
Yes. We must take care of Mother Earth. We can't just leave people just doing people doing the work. We live here. We got to work together. Thank you for telling that story. Our deaf people need to know. They need to be involved.
Yes.
No, it's not just a hearing, general population of the hearing. No, 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 no. We need to. That's what this show is about. Deaf woke, waking up our deaf community. And it's not something you can just look at and pander on the internet. No, we need to be involved. We need to be out there. We need to go. Some people are working hard every night and all day just to protect that. Did you guys just stand there kind of defending? Were there people injured? Was it, were you guys allowed to protest?
It took a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. When we were doing, well, especially during the Standing Rock, no dapple, that was crazy. We didn't have, it wasn't a celebration. We weren't, busy just supporting from the sidelines. We took our whole family and went up there. We were looking for interpreters that would be willing to come with us. We actually got 4 volunteer interpreters. We had 50 deaf people in our group that went. It was, oh man, such a culturally rich experience. Those interpreters were, donating their time and there to support us in our efforts. I can't even tell you how much I appreciated their willingness to be there and to lift us up as a deaf community and as Indigenous. And just, it was just in that moment, when we arrived at Standing Rock, when we pulled in, we could see so many tents. It was a thing of beauty. I've got to tell you, it was, as far as the eye could see, there was 20,000 people there, if you could imagine. It
Wow,
was a
20,000.
giant encampment. Yeah, and there were teepees and tents and lodges and sweats. Oh, and I was just like, I will just never forget it. I'll never forget it. Every time I think about it, it gives me goosebumps, makes me, gives me chills just to think of what an amazing experience. The people I met, when we got there, we got ourselves set up, and it was funny. We had a deaf camp sign so that people would know.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then, we got involved in some of the activities. We went to the front line to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters there defending. And we were there for worship circles and sweats and I just remember. Oh yeah, there was another thing too. We just went to Washington, D.C. That was something we did recently as a group. Was the Indigenous Environmental Network. And what they had asked me to involve. And so I was just pleased to absolutely go. They provided an interpreter there for me there. There were a few people there, but we got involved with the youth activity. They did a youth run from Standing Rock. They sent their delegates and they asked me to provide a presentation in regards to, well, I was actually at the Army Corps of Engineers building at the offices. So what we did is we made a plea to President Biden to please stop Line 3 as well as DAPL. And, I shared my own experience and my own plea to the people. We had interpreters there. It was a thing of beauty. Everything ran so smoothly. And then our people created a 300-foot long black snake. And we had volunteers. It was kind of like a puppet, right? Where we had those long poles and people held it up and we moved it down and we arrived to BLM Plaza with that. And that's where we actually cut off the head of the black snake, killing the black snake. And that was the whole point, was to kill the black snake.
What's happened now? Yeah, see, I saw in the news, there was pepper spraying that was going on. People were getting pepper sprayed.
Yes.
They had water hoses out.
Yep. And that actually just this last June in Minnesota, on White Earth, on that reservation. I met 3 interpreters. There was 3 interpreters and 2 deaf. There was 6 of us total. And we went to check out the oil pipeline. And it was It was awful. It was just awful. You could see oil company helicopters flying around, like just super close to us, very intimidating, trying to blow dust at us and just make it uncomfortable. And we were just like in shock about how mean and malicious their actions are against us. And then they arrested 200 people there
What
at
for?
that particular protest. Yeah, it was such bullshit. It was crazy. But those oil companies, they are dirty dogs. All they're interested in is money. They're paying off cops, law enforcement, even like the National Guard was, I'm pretty sure paid off to push us aside versus keep everybody safe. But yeah, oil companies are big money.
I agree with you. It's dirty business. How can we prevent the land from being seized? What can we do? How can we prevent oil companies, when they get excited and they're tickled pink about the land and open space? What can we do?
Well, we have to find our like the indigenous environmental network. Okay, we have to find our resources. We have to group up. We have to get ready. We have to make connections and contacts, and we need to know where we can get more involved and become activists and accomplice. We have to contact offices and find out what it is that we need to do with them in order to make everything work out so that we can do these actions. Even calling ahead to make sure that there are sign language interpreters available for us and things like that. Before we even arrive in person, we need to know where we're going, but not share that with everyone because obviously there's safety issues involved as well. When you get there, then, you can share who you are and what you're there for. But there's so much right now going on with the oil companies. You just can't trust them and their behavior and their choices.
So I understand that you are a strong advocate for the indigenous deaf community. You mentioned there's been going on 2014. I think you have an organization that you founded back in 2014. Yeah. Can you talk about the advocacy? And that's what it was. This was mentioned about the advocacy that you're doing.
I don't know what he's saying either. I'm sorry. Okay.
Can you explain a little bit about the organizations that you're in? You're heavily involved in activities related to human rights.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually involved in a lot of different activities because I feel like they're great groups to be in, and they each have different goals. For example, I'm vice chair of our Native American caucus, the Democratic caucus in Iowa. So that's the Iowa Democratic Party, and that's a really really enriching experience for me, learning about how the world works on a political level. I never thought that I would be involved in politics, I'll be honest with you, but it has been a rich experience, being able to be involved in the voting process and getting other people activated into that process and just all the learning I've done. It's been a big eye opener for me being a part of that group, and that's just one example.
You had mentioned something about voting, and how that's an incredible part, and that indigenous people have rights and they should have rights to vote. Uh, you know,
Well, yeah, they actually do take that opportunity to vote. The indigenous community, I know, just Iowa State just last year for the 2020 election, um, you needed to have a tribal ID in order to vote, right? So I was able to present that. And that was a very cool thing. That was finally being recognized, not having to use my state ID, but being able to identify fully as an Indigenous person from the Meskwaki Nation and vote.
So what that means is um, you can demonstrate your own tribal ID.
Yes.
So does it, how does it look much different from the
But
state ID?
well, no, it just says where I came from as my picture on it, but it's cool because it has my tribal affiliation and my native name on it versus my state ID.
So you can use that for the elections here in America. So you can present that
Yeah.
ID, present your identity. That must have been an incredible experience doing that for the first time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I voted before. I've used my state ID multiple times. It's always been the same trip, but being able to use go to my own tribal location, use my own tribal card, it's a
So that
different
was,
experience.
yeah, you felt that was your real
Yeah,
ID because that was something really
yeah,
identifying who you were. Oh,
yeah,
wow, you are a very busy person. You're advocating vlogs. You're a mother of beautiful, strong, healthy children.
yes.
I know we don't have a lot of time. I know you're busy. I want to respect your time, but I want to kind of a little bit. Is that I'm here in California in the
Fremont.
city of Fremont here in Northern California. There's a sculpture of a very famous of Douglas. It's a very famous statue, and there's an indigenous man on the campus. I think there's one. Oh,
There's
there's
two.
two. There's two on the Fremont School for the Deaf.
Yep, with the bear.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a smaller version and a larger version. I think the statue is representing the gentleman with kind of wrestling a bear. What's your opinion about that? Do you have an opinion? Is it something positive, negative?
Well, to be honest with you, um, I actually we tend to disagree with the fighting. Um,
Statues.
we use our people are more like we don't like the mascots. We don't want people to objectify us, especially with native symbols being used for mascots for like sports teams. Um, the situation with that person with the I think it was the bear and they were hunting, right? And I think when I first got there in 2003 to Fremont, there in California, I saw that on the school property, that statue, and I was like, wow, that's a pretty graphic statue because I mean, you could see the bear trying to kill the hunter, right? I mean, that's its intention, right? He's about to kill that man, and I just was I, I was kind of grossed out. I thought it was kind of a yucky situation. I told my friend, I'm like, that's a little offensive, actually. I wanted to feel inspired by it. I wanted to think it was cool, but the more I learned about history, the more I feel less support. So yeah, I have to say I don't support keeping that statue or mascots, but it was something else. But then it had been changed to a bear and hunter statue. But my people, they don't hunt cubs. That's not something that we would do. That's like a dishonorable thing. So there are just so many things that conflict with truth. I mean, the positives are, Fremont's a great school, that no problem. But when they set that elementary school up,
It's
I was a little bit,
it's in front of the elementary school.
to have that right in front of an elementary school there. I mean, the others, I believe it was made in France, right, and was brought to American soil. So the man who made the statue was a Frenchman, right? So it was like cultural appropriation, is what it felt more like. So there are just so many things that, as you look at them, it's pretty clear. I don't know. I think the truth is something that we need to bring more out We just need to tell the truth and not have so much sweeping under the rug.
I want to say, thank you for sharing your truth, about, your perspective, the bear and the hunter, not feeling proud of that picture, that representation, kind of, you know, and being that, it's a salient in the deaf community on that campus. But we, as deaf and indigenous people, that's something that doesn't make us feel right, doesn't sit well. Me personally, Antoine, my opinion, I don't really agree with that statue. The hunter and the bear, the hunter and the cub, it just doesn't make sense.
Is it just me, or are you seeing this too? We're back.
Even in the deaf community, we're still learning about race. We're still learning about racism.
Yeah.
Cultural appropriation, language deprivation. And we don't learn how to respect each of us. Art is created, and it could be a bad influence. Like sporting mascots, like the Redskins. That's not appropriate.
Right. And the Redskins, that's not even, that would not even be an appropriate word to use in general conversation with us. It's always been an insult. It's always been derogatory. I mean, obviously, having somebody say you have red skin or you are a redskin, it's always been used that way. So now we're finally starting to have more positive connotations with our identities. But I don't want anybody, I definitely don't want anybody thinking that we're inspiring, and it's okay for them to use us as mascots, right? And I know some people think, well, why not? But
who's your role model? Who does somebody you look up to?
my mom, she's just, we're super tight. She's been the absolute rock in my family, and my uncle, those two people.
Why do they inspire you? Why do they drive you?
Well, when I was first born, they both had a choice, right? And they decided to learn sign language, and not just learn sign language, but to teach me about my culture, to teach me the language of my culture, to, to bring me in amongst our people, and to be here. And I am here who I am because of those two people. I am so thankful to the Creator for giving me this life. They're both wonderful, wonderful people, and I would not be here if it weren't for the two of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You might want to slow down a little bit for the interpreters to keep up. Well, we are going. They are. Oh, they could be struggling right now. It's okay. We're just going with it. That's just what we do. Now, you'd mentioned, your role models. We don't need to name those people to inspire us. However, let's play a little game show. It's called Name These People. It's a simple game. I'll provide a visual description, and I'll ask who they are, and then you can take a guess.
All right, let's see who you get. I hope I know somebody.
Visual description of a picture of a female African, has black, medium long, thick locks, wears a black top. Her full lips is a warm maroon red lipstick. She looks lovely looking at the camera with a small grin. Who is she?
Am I supposed to guess? Okay.
Oh, if you don't know their name, maybe you can describe what they do. Are they an actor, writer?
Okay. Is she an actress? She's beautiful, so I would guess she's an actress.
Yes, she is indeed a beautiful person. She kind of an actress.
Oh,
Yeah, Aletha Lindsay. Deaf. Lives in native of Atlanta, Georgia. Multi award-winning multidisciplinary artist.
amazing.
She's a published author in Inside Their Studio, artist with disabilities, and she's a curator of Equa Creative.
Nice. Oh, I know who this is.
Visual description: a picture of a female native wears a pair of black rectangle framed eyeglasses. She has a long length brown hair, red black sweater with a black neck turtle top matching to her antique earrings. Who is she?
I know her. This is Judy Stout. I actually know her.
Yeah,
Yay! I
yes,
knew it.
Judy Stout. Who is she? Well, she's deaf herself, a native of North Carolina, a member of the Lumbee tribe, and which is nearby Pembroke, North Carolina. She earned her master's degree in school guidance from Gallaudet University. She's a deaf vlogger. You know her?
Oh yeah, yeah. We met a long time ago. She's such a nice lady. She's amazing. I'm. Oh my gosh, yes. I'm honored to know her.
She's also on the board of directors with the Communication Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in
Oh yeah.
Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yep. Lumbee, absolutely. I know. Yeah.
Visual description: a picture of a native male with his right hand reaching out. He has a white, thin, trimmed stubble goatee. He has a red knitted cap, a long sleeve blue jean shirt with turquoise trim, and a pair of glasses hanging in front of his shirt. Who is he?
This is James Woodlong. Woodlegs.
Yeah. Come on, come on. Tell me about James.
Okay. It is a super, super small world. It's actually funny because when did I meet him? I think it was 2004. Okay, so my mom and my uncle were going to Crow Fair Powwow, right? Or the Crow Fair Powwow. That's in Montana. And they saw other people signing. And so my mom went over and said, "Hey," and she introduced herself. She says, "I have a deaf daughter." And so they started talking. They exchanged cards. And when she got home, she gave me the card. And so I went ahead and contacted them through email, I think. But anyway, so we got to chatting over email. And I said, "I'm deaf and indigenous." And there was some new thing going on in New York. And so I drove to New York to that event and met a bunch of people. Gosh, I was pretty young, 21, 22 at the time, but I went ahead and that's how I know him.
Yeah. He's a native of Montana, spiritual advisor who comes from the fifth generation Native American in his family. He's fluent in both Plains Indian Sign Language and American Sign Language. Visual description: a picture of a female native with her background of pine trees. She has a long black hair, wears a pair of blue stone silver hook earrings, and a silver necklace with a red blouse. She looks at the camera, grinning humbly. Who is she?
Oh, I don't know.
What do you
I
think she
don't
does?
know. I don't know. Is she an artist?
This is Crystal Two Bulls. She's hearing, a native of Oglala, uh,
Oglala?
Olaga, Lakota, and Northern Cheyenne in Lombard Deer, Montana. Director of the Land Back campaign. She's an organizer of front lines with the campaign development and management of local and national transnational campaigns for social, racial, and environmental justice.
Wow. Oh, I know.
Visual
Yeah, I know the
description:
two bulls' name.
a picture of a native male appears with a medium short hair, wears a black silk shirt, and looking so handsome. He looks at the camera humbly.
Oh, this guy. I know that man.
Yeah, who is he?
This is Benjamin I believe the last name is Brett, right? Is
I
it
don't
wrong?
know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. It is Benjamin Brett.
Benjamin Brett.
It's Brett, not Brett. Okay. Okay. I knew him.
Yeah, he's hearing and cute, right? He's a
Yeah.
native of San Francisco, California. He's an American Peruvian actor and producer. Benjamin has supported roles in the 1990s in such box office hits as Bright Angel, Blood In, Blood Out, Demolition Man, Clear and Present, Danger, and The River Wild.
Oh yeah.
And in a movie you may recognize him as Miss Congeniality. And also, he's been active in the American Indian movement and supports such causes as the American Indian College Fund.
Yeah.
Visual description: a picture of a female African appears in a hair black jacket, a gold zipper opening lowly. She has full volume, honey brown, curly, medium long hair. She wears a full warm color makeup and bronze. Who is she?
Queen
Yeah, come on.
Latifah.
Yeah,
She's a
Queen
queen.
Latifah. Yeah,
I
that's
know
my
for
queen,
sure.
baby. That's my queen. A native of Newark, New Jersey, is an American singer, songwriter, rapper, actress, and producer. Her birth name is Dana Elaine Owens. She released her debut album of All Hail the Queen. And she's got a little sign name.
Nice.
Visual
Nice.
description: a picture of a native female with long brown wavy hair, has a non-sleeve blouse, looks at the camera, head leaning slightly and smiling happily. Who is she?
I'm excited. I know this person too. This is Al. Excuse me.
No,
Alpha.
I don't think you got it. You didn't get it. Oh, no, you got it. You got it.
Alpha Cox. I knew it.
Yeah, Alqua Cox. Who is she? Come on, give us a little.
Well, she is an indigenous deaf woman, and she's from that movie, right? She was in the Marvel movie, Hawkeye, right? She is the character Echo, right? And that's well, that's the first time we've ever had anything focused on a deaf indigenous woman, so pretty amazing.
Picture of a male African rests against on the gray walls. His arms are on his legs. He has a black short haircut, black trimmed goatee. Who is he?
Yes, he was he was in that family show. What was it called? Family something. He was Urkel, right? He used to pull his pants up and he wore those dorky glasses. Yes, Steve. I remember.
Yeah,
Like
actor.
the 90s.
Yep. Jaleel White. Yep, he was the actor, and he was Steve Urkel in the sitcom Family Matters. Yep. That was a long time show ago, 1989. He played that role at the age of 12. Yeah, he was Urkel. Did I do that? Yeah, remember? Did I do that?
He was so good. He was so good at that character.
He's a cool man.
Oh yeah,
I love him. Yeah. There's a picture of a native male sits and leaning forward. He has gray and brown two-part braided hairstyle with his white yarn wrapping on each strand of braids. He wears a black short sleeve shirt with a blue and white necklace. Who is he?
Yeah, this is Grant S something. Shoot, I just met him like a couple of months ago. Or he just passed away, excuse me, a couple of months ago, just recently. Oh, it was sad. Yes, there we go. Grant was his last name.
Yes, honoring the late, great Sangwa Morgan Grant. Hearing. He's a native of Oklahoma, but resided in Los Angeles while he was living. He's a Native American character, as the best known for the Lone Ranger, the world's fastest Indian, Community, and Breaking Bad are the shows he was in. He's an award-winning musician, powwow dancer, motivational speaker. This is true. He is now one of our ancestors. but he lives on.
Yeah.
This is a
Oh,
picture
I
of
know
a
her.
native female with a black, smoky background. She has black hair and a low ponytail and has a black blouse with a mid-long necklace of green and multicolored sea beads. Who is she?
This is Christina Black Cloud. I know her well.
Woo! Yes,
She's from my tribe. She's Meskwaki. Oh, I have to tell you a story about her.
please do.
Well, so as vice chair for the Native American caucus for the IDP, the Iowa Democratic Party, right? Um, she and I have met, and she actually recommended that I get involved in that in the area. I noticed that she was very involved herself, and I could see that she was doing good. So, you know, I'm very grateful to her for getting me involved.
Well, I'm glad I was able to put her in this game.
Yes, I was glad I was able to share that story about her.
There's a picture of a male African American rests his left arm on a brown box. He has black, long, wavy locks, black, thick, subtle goatee, and a gold chain bracelet on his left hand. Who is he?
I don't know. I think he's either a dancer or I think he's deaf.
Deaf? Guess we'll
I
see.
don't know.
You all right? Name's Fred Beam. Yep, deaf actor. Grew up in Florida. He also works at currently working at RIT. He runs a company called Sunshine 2.0. He was also touring in a dance company, the Wild Zappers. He's been involved in several different theaters, and he's been all over the place. And this is one of my good friends. This is a sign name, Freddie.
Very cool.
Wow, this is a picture of a native male in a red blouse, long braids in two parts, and a blue silver ring on his right hand, while another has a hand has a silver ring and holds a black microphone. He wears a black frame eyeglasses, looking at a camera, smiling. Who is he?
Well, he's obviously a musician, right? With that microphone. He's a
Yeah, Mike.
rapper.
Yeah, Mike drop.
Uh,
Yeah, tti-ka means hearing himself. Native of Arizona and the Navajo Nation, resides in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. He's a boxer, actor, comedian, entrepreneur. He advocates. He's an advocate for the Oglala Lakota in Omaha, Yankton Dakota, in the Dene descent. Dene descent. This is a good person.
Yeah, he's cool. Right on.
That's all. Yeah.
I think I won, right? Because I got the most answers.
Yeah, you passed. You
Yay for
passed.
me.
Time is getting close. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be selfish with your time. So let's give the audience some time to ask you some questions. All right, audience, it's your time. Go ahead and type your questions in the chat box.
Ask me
Uh,
anything.
yeah,
I
this
am
is the time.
open to any questions.
Come on, ask Young Bear anything. So the question is, which is a better term, native, natives, Indians, or indigenous? And she said, part of my spelling, need to practice a little bit. But with those terms, which one and why?
Well, you know, I use my native sign Meskwaki. That tells people automatically where I come from. We don't use the term Indians because, well, it's kind of offensive. You know, some people back in the day, like in Christopher Columbus's time, right, when they first arrived to the Americas, They saw people like us and they thought that they had arrived to the actual country of India. And so that's why they had termed us Indians because of our darker colored skin. They just assumed that's what we were. Now, indigenous, that actually means, I mean, that's not even necessarily just American. That's indigenous is a word that applies all over the world. It really just means a person who is from that land, who has their own culture, their own values, community, and ancestry. That's really what indigenous means. So I call myself an indigenous Iowan. You know, I use that language in that way. Um, Native American is kind of like a government label and is almost like a racism checklist that we're being applied with. It has to do with them labeling us.
Was it Black Elk who predicted the black snake?
That is a good question. That's a good question because honestly, I can't remember the name of the person who did that. You know, who said that they saw that vision. I don't remember who it was. I'm not sure.
This question. Thank you from the ancestor land of Rhyme Bush Aloni.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, yes, I remember that.
Oh, I forgive me. I forgot my land acknowledgement. I'm here on the Ohlone in California of the Ohlone tribe.
Could you say that again? She's saying yes. We're in Tama. We're called the Meskwaki settlement, and that's in Tama, Iowa. And it's called a settlement because we own that land. Now, Council Bluffs, I believe this area. Oh my gosh, the Iowa area. There, I think the natives were moved more to northern Iowa area. Um, the folks that were from this area, but there are actually two tribes in this area.
Yeah, Native American reminds me of the term sub-Saharan African. Yeah, it's like it's kind of inherently racist. What do you think?
I don't know. I've Native American, that American part. I don't really understand that. Um, we've already established we are in the continent of America, so I'm identifying with my identity from my ancestors, not from the land that was given a different name. So Native American doesn't really apply.
So this is a statement I learned from my ancestry DNA about my great great ancestry are the Cherokee Indians. As, as your opinion, is that more of a common that blacks and natives? Here's a question: would you want Indigenous Sign Language to rise for all of us, Indigenous
Yes,
people,
I
today
would.
using ASL?
Yes, yes, I encourage that. Yeah, I would like to encourage Indigenous Sign Language. We need to recognize Indigenous Sign that it's been here. I mean, my grandmother used that sign language as well. So I feel like, the deaf community is able to put Indigenous sign into what I refer to as ISL into the ASL. And there's no recognition right now for ISL. And I would really like for there to be within ASL language books, or I'd like for there to be a curriculum for ISL.
Yeah, where can we find more deaf and hard of hearing Native Americans at? Most states where I know California, most are in Eureka, Yikia.
There are lots of folks in the Dene Navajo tribes that are deaf in the Arizona area. They have a lot of deaf, blind, hard of hearing, but there are people all over Turtle Island, but Arizona being one of the top ones for a deaf indigenous community.
I have a question. Here in America, we feel like the deaf and the hearing worlds are segregated. Do indigenous people and tribes do they feel kind of as a participant?
Yeah, it actually happened to me when I went to college. I was at an indigenous college, but there was no interpreter provided. So there I was at college with no sign language interpreter. We didn't know much about the ADA law at that point, but even the community, didn't recognize ADA. And so, I mean, that was a sticky situation, and it still kind of is. And there's a lot of work and a lot of education to be done, not just deaf, but deaf and indigenous. To be recognized as deaf, sure, but to be recognized as indigenous deaf was a whole other thing.
Yeah, something to still work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really just depends on where you are. Question: I believe there were dark-skinned people among us before Europeans came here. Yeah, I feel like African American term has been misunderstood. Okay, come on, audience. Oh, did you have something to say?
Yeah, really, I would like everyone to realize that the indigenous community we don't have very many deaf, um, or, deaf-blind, hard of hearing people within our community. And, I recently was involved with the White House Roundtable. They invited me to participate in that. And I was representing the Native American disabled community. And I wanted to educate, about IHS, Indian Health Services, and what that looks like, and how we could improve our housing. And, just I wanted to be involved in that. And they invited me to do that. So I'm happy to lend whatever I can from the indigenous community to that effort.
This might be an interesting question. So I'm curious about your knowledge on Black people who were in their dark skin than today and indigenous or on the earth. As first. Do you know that?
Oh, I think what you're talking about is a scientific type question, and we're talking about who the first people were, and it's really, I mean, how do we know which color they were? That's a heck of a question that, I don't know that anyone could answer that. I honestly don't have that type of science background. I wouldn't be able to answer that. I'm sorry.
What? Growing up, my grandfather and father, uh, you know,
He
Buffalo
was a
soldier.
Buffalo soldier.
The indigenous people gave him that name. Gave him the Black Soldier. That was the name that he got during the wars, and it's a name that has been honored. You know, it's a mutual respect. Hurting one another. It's about love, loving each other. It's not about being afraid. It's about how do we work together in a team, just like my grandfather did with indigenous people back in the wars. My family, my Black people, we're supportive of the indigenous people, the indigenous stories. You know,
You know, I feel like indigenous people and Black people have been through very similar experiences. We've experienced slavery, genocide. Um, we have very parallel experiences, historically speaking. You know, becoming a U.S. citizen. I mean, there was a 3-in-1 rule. So you had three people who could use the same name, the same social security number. I mean, there was always 3 to 1, and Black people and indigenous people had to deal with things like that. So very parallel experiences, and I feel like they don't recognize us indigenous people in a similar way that they don't recognize Black people. They don't recognize the oppression they place on us, the school situations, the inequity. I mean, if you even just look at the kids, um, if you look at indigenous children, they're are so many that have been killed, like these bodies that they're digging up near the residential schools. They killed many of our children. I mean, there's the one they found over 6,000 bodies so far, and it's all over the United States and Canada. You know, we're wearing the color orange in September in honor of our children and our lost children. And I just, you know, there's so much of history that's still missing. You know, our history hasn't been recorded properly. There's the Christian history, there's the church history, there's all of that. But where's the apology that these people owe our peoples? And all of this hidden information, secrets, all that must stop. It needs to stop.
So are tribe IDs under the U.S. government? Remember you
Nope.
had mentioned something about state ID is different from the tribe ID.
Nope. Our tribes have sovereignty, so that means the state would have to recognize it. It's a separate ID system from the state ID.
Yeah, how do you get a tribe ID? What does that process look like?
Well, you go to your tribe, where your people are from. You go to the tribal office and you request a tribal ID. You have to be an enrolled member, so they'll have to give you an ID number as well.
Wow. So people, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I've learned an incredible amount of information today. Does it stop here? No, you can follow Young Bear on her social media. Her Facebook account is at SAYBB. Follow her, learn more about what's going on, the culture, family. You can watch her on Twitter as well. Is it your Twitter name the same?
It is at Sarah Young Bear First. I believe there's a one in there. I don't know. They gave me that as a suggestion, so I don't know why I put number one in there.
I'm always learning something from your social media. So, yo, people, come on, follow, subscribe,
Yeah,
continue
yeah.
learning.
Yep, and I'm happy to help. So
I know time, unfortunately, is running out. But, Youngblood, do you have a message, something burning that you want to share? Your final thought?
don't wait. Do something. If you have a burning in your heart, if you feel that in your soul, don't just stand by and do nothing and watch other people fight like I did. You know, I saw people fighting for our land and for our water, and I got involved. We all have to get involved to protect the earth.
Yes, beautiful. I agree. Do something about it. Don't wait for somebody else to do something. Be the change that you want to see. Be the change in yourself you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Do it.
Do
Do
it.
this.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on our show, Deaf Woke. Thank you for being brave and showing your truth.
Oh, well, I hope everybody's woke up now. Hello.
I know I am. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Woo! Wow. That Sarah Young Bear. What an incredible person. Sharing her story. Like she said, I hope y'all wake all the way up. That's what this show's about, Deaf, being woke. You know, just sitting back and watching the world be destroyed. No, we live here. We need to work together as a team, respect each other. People have been here since the beginning of time. The tribes, they've been here. We've learned so much. Does the learning stop today? No. We got to continue learning, continue respecting our land, respect our air, Respect our animals. Continue respecting the people, our indigenous people. We need to understand their culture. We need to be more attentive, providing space for them to be safe. I hope everyone watching today, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you. It touches me deeply that you're watching. But now don't watch and that's it. No, blast this everywhere. This is an amazing thing about indigenous people, deaf, hearing. Maybe there's other indigenous hearing people that don't know about what's going on. Expose them to deaf culture, expose them to the different cultures, expose them to different world. Thank you, Young Bear. Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you to the audience. Thank you, How Round, Drop Labs, and you for watching. Come on now, where my likes at? Come on, where my hearts at? Come on, let me see them. Where they at? Where they at? See this shirt? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Deaf Folk shirt made from Pop Fish. I think I got my mask too. Where's my mask at the day? Oh, I think I left it. They designed me a beautiful mask. So visit Pop Fish. They can design something for you as well. Come on, where my likes at? Come on, where my likes at? Like, this show, the operation costs are not free. So please, if you can, go ahead and donate to www.realurbanjazzdancecompany/contact us. Please donate donate to keep this show going. I mean, I volunteer my time, but giving access to all as many. We need your donations, your support. Wow, we had a vibrant audience today. We got an abundance of comments. I agree with you. Yes, for that last comment. Did y'all learn a lot? Yeah. I learned a little new. I learned some sign language, the indigenous sign for blood, the snake. Yeah, I've learned so much today. So I'll see you next time. Forgive me. I'm very moved today. Today's interview was powerful with Young Bear. I'm proud of all of you for asking questions, for taking a moment to ask, to learn. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Let me stop talking, signing. I think I need to dance. Let's bring our theme music back on. Yo, you know what? Peace, love. I'm out. Where's my music at? All right, hold on. Don't come back on yet. He's gonna invite us back on. Yeah, but